with portraits, if you make even the slightest inaccuracy, the image looks grotesque. So you absolutely have to get the correct distance and positioning of features on a face, or you have something that looks like an alien. So I gave in to tracing my images first on the canvas in pencil using a projector from my iPad, from a photo, and in black and white usually. And then I start to create volume and depth with colors, and it's still not simple. You know, you would think if you trace an image, you could just make a painting, but it still takes a lot of mental work to make it look 3D because it's 2D.
I think Vermeer took weeks to do a portrait.
Yeah, and so do I. So I'm no Vermeer. but I have a lot of fun doing it, and the technique of tracing gives me a way in. If I didn't trace it, I just don't have the drawing skills to make a completely 100% accurate drawing of a face that I can paint from. So this gives me a way to tackle it.
Do you feel like you're cheating?
A little bit. I know some people feel that way, but I also know even Renaissance artists sometimes traced. So I'm happy to follow in their footsteps and do it that way. And you know what? I don't aspire to be a great artist. I want to enjoy the process of what I'm doing. And I paint for my own pleasure and to satisfy myself. So if I get an image that looks like a satisfactory likeness, I'm happy. And that's all I need.
Okay.
And I can do that by tracing.
How do you choose your subjects? Or do they choose you?
No, this project started during COVID when I was mostly home alone, although my sister was in the house with me, but I missed seeing the people of my everyday life. And I really missed my family, my daughters, it's mostly my family. So I began to paint the faces of my family because I craved those faces. I wanted to see them. And we weren't seeing each other in person, so only on FaceTime or with masks. And so I created their faces by painting them. And first I did my parents, who I think are at the top there, and then I did my siblings and their spouses, and my daughters who are over there. And then I started to branch out to people who were important to me in my life who did show up even during COVID. And that was my house cleaner, my mailman, my contractor. And really I started to recognize that in addition to my family, those are the people who are really important in my life. They make my life better. So I created a series that I decided to call My COVID-19. Because it's the 19 people that were in my life when no one was there. Yeah, those are my COVID-19. Yeah, and now I'm continuing it. I'm sort of finishing the succession of family members, and I've had a few requests from friends or other people who asked me if I would paint portraits for them. So. Sure.
I see a lot of pictures of animals around the house. Were you really into animals then?
Well, I'm a competitive horseback rider.
Oh.
And I'm in contact with animals a lot. I haven't painted my horses. I don't know why, but I think because sporting art is already such a respected genre, and I was afraid if it wasn't formal and a certain way that it wouldn't measure up, so I didn't go there. But now I'm feeling more confident I might try it. But I do love animals, and honestly, when I started painting, it was when my youngest daughter went to college and I was then home alone. And I thought, well, I don't want to spend all my evenings by myself. And I took a painting class at the local high school, an adult ed class. And I didn't know how to paint. So I started out with still lifes and landscapes and, got the hang of mixing colors and putting paint on the canvas and creating images similar to maybe what was in a photo. But that wasn't what I wanted to paint. That didn't satisfy me. I really wanted to paint faces. But every time I tried, I got an absolute monster. So I'd move away from it and paint more still lifes. And I was puzzling over it. And I made friends with a professional painter in Florida, where I have a home, and started to paint together with this guy. And
via Zoom?
No, this was in person. This was before COVID. So once a week we'd meet, he'd do his painting, I'd do mine. And then I noticed that he sometimes projected the image. And I started to try that. And then it was during COVID that we created the same painting in 2 different places. I had come back to Massachusetts from Florida. He was still in Florida. We were still good friends, and we decided to paint via FaceTime together. But we used the same reference image. So he sent me the photo and said, I'll show you how I do it. You start with this and so will I. And we each took a big canvas, projected the image, traced it, and then he showed me step by step. And then I took an online course during COVID. And it was from a Canadian artist, Carla Marshak, who paints in bright, bright colors. And she often does portraits. And I thought, that's what I want to do. So I studied the sessions and painted along and learned her method. And then I was off and running. And
How do you feel about online courses?
I find them a little hard because you're not engaging with a person. But when you need information, it's a good way to get it.
Yeah.
And I've tried out different courses to learn a method or get around a problem. And really, I just want the information out of it. And then I'm satisfied and I can move on by myself.
You have a great working space here.
Thank you. Thank you. It worked out fine. It's a former dining room, but the light comes in the window, and I just took out all the furniture and put in a bunch of paint. But that's how I use my home now, so I don't need a dining room. And when I have friends over to paint, we use a big table in the living room and just cover it with plastic. Yeah. But with the Wellesley Society of Artists, I wasn't really sure if I was officially an artist, but I had some work. So I applied, and they invited me to join. And when I went to the first meeting, I thought, oh, here are my people. Everybody here makes art.
So you got your artistic license.
Yeah, I got my artistic license, exactly. That's what it felt like. And then they have a show once a year where you can enter one work. And that was the first time I ever exhibited anything. So that was a nice opportunity.
How did you get in the library?
I just applied. You know, I had this whole series, and I really wanted to hang it somewhere as a series, but I'm an unknown, and I don't have a resume, and I thought, how do you start? But friends told me, and I knew I had seen works by one artist in the library. So I prowled around on the website and I found out you could apply. And luckily my COVID-19 series is about my community. And I think the library likes that community orientation. So it took 2 years to get the space, but I waited, and I didn't know how to hang the work. So I've learned through that experience.
Is there a course on that?
A course? No, but the president of the Wellesley Society for Artists spent time with me and helped me understand how to do it. And then my cousin, who's an artist, helped me hang the work. So that was very valuable. And now I go and check it every few days to make sure it's hanging straight.
Did you to school for this at any time?
Never. No. I'm a complete novice with very little training and really not very much experience.
Why did you decide to get into this rather than, well, you're into horseback riding?
I've done that for 25 years, and I reached some goals that were important to me with the riding. So I was an adult amateur champion in New England at Grand Prix. I worked my way up the levels, sort of got my black belt doing that. And I also sponsor a para-equestrian who's a 5-time Olympian. And we went to Paris, and she won 3 gold medals.
That's amazing.
So that was another pinnacle. It was like, wow, that's very satisfying to have done that. But at the same time, I enjoy art, and I always wished I could create art. And I didn't know how to begin, but I sort of found my way, trial and error. So, and I've always loved portraits. I love people. I love faces. It's the thing I most like to look at, much more than a landscape. I really like looking at the shapes and differences in faces.
Are you going to some of the educational events that WSA puts on?
Yeah, I love to do them. I went to one all about photographing your own artwork, and I like the ones where artists talk about what they paint and how they paint. I don't do so much of the plein air painting because that's not my jam.
Do you have any painting or art heroes or people who inspire you?
Well, I love Wolf Kahn's landscapes because they are otherworldly colors and they're bright and friendly and fun. And I love Lucian Freud's portraits. I love portraiture. You know, and I really love those medieval portraits where people are painted holding symbols that means something. It's obscure to us now, but at the time probably conveyed something very quickly about their status or beliefs or whatever. And I'm really kind of toying with the idea of, ooh, could I somehow include symbols in my portraits, whether they are objects from a person's life or something in the background? Like, that interests me a little bit. Just because of the history of portraiture.
Your work seems pretty realistic.
It is, and when I compare it to my reference photos, I'm satisfied that it's a good likeness. Sometimes I have pictures of people standing right with their portraits, and you can see how much alike they are, which is great. The mailman who's over there, I asked one day to take his picture, and he's such a sweet man. You can see in his eyes, he's so lovely. I showed him that I paint portraits, and then I said, would it be all right with you if I take your photo to paint a portrait? And he said, sure, and he stood and gave me a nice little smile. And I worked on the portrait, and then I sent him the copy when I was finished. But I didn't hear anything. And I thought, uh-oh, it's an interpretation. Maybe he didn't care for it. But then I realized I was in Florida where he doesn't know my address. And when I came back to Massachusetts, I found this lovely note, which I've kept, handwritten, where he said, thank you for this wonderful gift you've given me. It's so precious to me. I love it so much that I have not put it in frame or hung it on the wall because I like to carry it from room to room. I take it from the kitchen to the living room to my bedroom. It really touched my heart. And he said he comes from a family of painters and artists from Iran and Persia, and that his uncle even paints miniatures with a cat hair. And when I heard that, I thought, oh my goodness, he knows art. And I'm a little embarrassed now that I painted his portrait, but he does genuinely seem to love it. So that was a really special reaction.